What if I told you there's a man running group homes in Minnesota while he's also a high-ranking government official in a country thousands of miles away from here? I've spent a year investigating Minnesota's group home industry with a team of journalists at NPR News and APM Reports. These places are largely funded by Medicaid to provide care and supervision for people with physical disabilities or mental illness. They've been popping up all over the northwest suburbs of Minneapolis in recent years and generating lots of complaints about neglected residents, fights, drug use, and residents going missing.
We went to Brooklyn Park City Council, the police department. There were avenues that we explored with going towards the county licensing organizations or bodies, and essentially at every turn we were basically told there's not really anything that we can do.
And as we were digging into some of the group homes that police and neighbors say are causing the most trouble, we came across Sekou Dukuly. Dukuly has been involved in at least 24 Minnesota group homes over the past decade. He usually set up the companies that run them. Sometimes he had an ownership stake in the business and owned the group home properties. He sold off much of his portfolio at this point, but up until I called him last week, he was licensed as the assisted living director for 3 Minnesota group homes, the person in charge of day-to-day operations. And yet, since the beginning of 2024, Dukuly has had another job.
We have a beautiful country. Let's help rebuild our country.
He's the managing director of the National Port Authority of Liberia, the West African country where he grew up and now lives.
More business is coming back, the economy is growing.
And he's doing it at the same time he's telling Minnesota state government he's the one making sure the vulnerable residents in 3 group homes are getting good care.
With this job, because of the implied on-site presence, you could not have this job and live outside the state, because you would have to be at the facility.
What if you lived outside of the country?
My personal thoughts on this are that if you are not maintaining an on-site presence, you are operating outside the implied rules and responsibilities that you've been granted.
Last year, an employee at one of the group homes Dukuly runs found a resident lying unresponsive on the bathroom floor. Stacy Muchko had a serious lung condition and was pronounced dead less than an hour later. The state found the group home neglected her because the group home's employees were supposed to be trained in CPR, but they weren't.
That strikes me as something that I really would have wished to know before I said that they could sign on the death certificate that it was natural causes. I mean, obviously the death was still natural causes, but that sounds like my mother could still be alive right now.
The group home is appealing the maltreatment finding. Since 2022, the state of Minnesota has investigated the deaths of 4 people who lived in group homes connected to Dukuly.
Nobody deserves what happened to him, and that I know the state maybe believes that they did the best that they could, but I was really surprised that it was as hands-off as it was.
And the health department found a 5th resident died after one of those group homes discharged him improperly.
It's been very traumatic for me, my girls, his sisters, our 2 sisters. He definitely wasn't somebody that was just like to think about as being lost in the system, if you get what I mean. You know what I mean? He's a person, he has a family and people that love him as well.
All told, the state has found 10 cases where residents have been neglected in group homes connected to Dukuly. As police and state inspectors were looking into problems at some of those group homes in Minnesota, a former business partner raised questions about Dukuly's business practices in Liberia.
Why I can't go inside?
Yang Dan and Dukuly both invested in a water bottling plant there. Yang shared financial records showing he wired more than $300,000 to bank accounts in the U.S. as part of their joint venture, and those bank accounts belong to group home companies Dukuly created.
So can you answer me my question? So where you use the money for? I want to sue him. I want to sue everything.
Dukuly denies the allegations. They're currently embroiled in a civil lawsuit in Liberia, and Dukuly says he also has a libel suit against Yang. Public records in Minnesota also raise questions about Dukuly's business dealings here. 3 group home businesses linked to Dukuly are in trouble with the state for not paying tens of thousands of dollars in taxes withheld from employees' paychecks. Because of that, there are still liens against some of the group home properties. The man who used to run some group homes linked to Dukuly recently pleaded guilty to committing Medicaid fraud at a previous job. The fraud happened at a company not connected to Dukuly. We also found 2 cases where Dukuly appears to have deceived Minnesota courts about his finances. In 2018, Dukuly was going through a divorce case involving child support. He told the court he earned just $17 an hour at his group home businesses, and he claimed they were operating at a loss. The child support magistrate didn't buy it. She looked at the bank accounts for businesses linked to Dukuly, and they were brimming with cash. She also wrote that some of that money looked like it went toward personal expenses. During his second divorce in 2022, Dukuly claimed in court that he owned no real estate. That wasn't true. Property records show he personally owned at least 6 houses in Minnesota at the time. And over the course of the past decade, the state of Minnesota has paid group homes connected to Dukuly more than $36 million in total. The state has never tried to shut down any of the group homes linked to Dukuly. But a few years ago, the city of New Hope did.
We saw the problem. We tried to remedy the problem. Staff and owners were unwilling to work with us.
Police in the Minneapolis suburb had responded to group homes linked to Dukuly 133 times in a single year. There were fights, noise violations, and after a resident died of an overdose in 2022, the city took action and revoked 2 of those group homes' rental licenses.
We decided that they were violating enough ordinances and laws that they would not be able to operate out of New Hope.
We have 7 items on our consent agenda this evening.
But Dukuly fought back.
With everything we've done, I don't think our license should be revoked.
Dukuly also filed lawsuits against the city. He lost in court, but the case caught the attention of state lawmakers. They passed a law in 2024 that prohibits cities from shutting down group homes.
We're supposed to have these checks and balances, and I don't think that's happening. That's obviously not happening. And some of our most vulnerable are paying the price.
Dukuly declined an interview request. In a text message to NPR News, he said it wouldn't be appropriate to speak about family and legal matters. And when it comes to the group homes, he said the public record speaks for itself. The Department of Human Services, which funds group homes through Medicaid, said that an owner of a Medicaid program moving abroad would raise concerns for our investigators, even if it's not against the law. But the Department of Health, which licensed all the group homes tied to Dukuly, didn't express the same concerns. It noted that nothing in statute prohibits a person from living out of state. After I called Dukuly last week, he abruptly removed himself as the licensed assisted living director for 2 group homes. But by the end of the week, he was still listed as the director for 1 group home in the state's licensing database. There's a lot more to this investigation. The whole story is available at nprnews.org.